Hey, it's Jess, and welcome to Becoming Heartstrong. This isn't a highlight reel, it's real life, and sometimes life is really challenging. But I believe your challenges can fuel a life of meaning and purpose. So each week, I share my honest reflections or talk with leaders, founders, experts, and everyday change makers who show you how to live, lead, and grow with courage. Let's get started. Hey, it's Jess, and welcome to Becoming Heartstrong. I'm so glad that you're here today with us, and this is a really special day for me because we have the honor of Katherine Wolf of Hope Heals joining us today. And if you don't know her, I just want to tell you a little bit about her as we get started. Katherine is a survivor, a communicator, and an advocate who, along with her husband, founded the amazing ministry of Hope Heals, serving families with disabilities. Katherine had a whole other plan for her life in the entertainment industry, and life happens as it does. And when she had an unexpected turn in 2008 at the age of 26 when she had a stroke. And life has changed since then, but it's also become something incredibly beautiful. And so today we're going to talk about her story and really what she's learning. And this is such a special opportunity for me because of everything that I've been through in my life, especially the season I'm in with my son, Bodhi, just to talk to someone else who is really walking this path of, I call it the middle space, of the in-between space of life, and is finding faith and hope and joy even there. So Katherine, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, goodness. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here. And listen, where are you coming from? Where's this accent? I love it.
Oh, so I'm a Midwesterner, and I live outside Chicago.
You think I have the accent being from Atlanta, and I think you do being from near Chicago.
Yes,
Funny, God,
I know. I have that Midwestern. We always joke that Midwesterners say Costco. My husband and I joke about that all the time. So
funny. Well, I hear it, but I love it. I'm here for it.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. So I want to start out this conversation with your book.
Yeah.
I got to throw my glasses on here. But you
Sure.
have this amazing book called Treasures in the Dark, which we will link in the show notes. And it's been such a gift to me. And I want to read you just one sentence from it and ask you if we can just start there talking about it. It's on, let's say, page 72.
Yeah, totally.
You got it. We both got it.
Yeah, totally.
So you have one sentence that says, I'm convinced that when there's nothing to be done about what's happening on the outside, there's always room to grow stronger inside. And I starred that because, we say being heartstrong is really developing a strength that starts with the heart, that's growing strong from the inside out so that we can face whatever our life brings to us. And so I'm wondering if we could start just talking a little bit about how you've done that, how you've continued to cultivate an inner strength regardless of the outer circumstances.
Yeah. I think that's everything sometimes you have to do that because the outside is not so great when circumstances are very difficult, but you ultimately have control over the inside that, everybody wants to think they're so powerless and helpless, but the reality is we get to decide how we feel and think about our story. I very much see God at work in my story and trace the lines that he's so clearly writing and just see the beautiful gifts that remain in the wreckage of all that's happened. And I think that's what we are each called to do is look around our lives after the tragedy and there is collateral damage for sure, absolutely. But I believe there's also collateral gifts that come from the wreckage.
I love that idea of collateral gifts. I heard you say that actually on a podcast I was listening to. You said it recently, and I was driving in my car, and I was like, that's awesome. Like, that just really, really spoke to me because that's how I feel about my own journey. You say this thing that I love, that we all, you're in a wheelchair, you use one. My son Bodhi uses a wheelchair, but you say that we all have invisible wheelchairs. And I just love this idea. Tell us about this idea and how we can all think about our own wheelchairs.
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty straightforward if you think about it, that yes, I have a physical wheelchair, but aren't we all dealing with stuff inside of us that renders us also having a disability? Even the most able-bodied among us is got some hard stuff from the past, from the current, whether it's financial, relational, emotional, whether it's mental illness in the story. There's so much, a chronic pain that is unseen, that is also worthy of wheelchairs.
That's right. I was thinking about this when I was getting ready for the podcast, because my oldest son was born with a heart defect, and you would look at him and not really, some people would, I think, say to themselves, maybe there's something, like his gait was a little funny with the way he would walk, but generally, like, it's a pretty typical kid. And so I always kind of felt like I was walking this middle path of almost trying to make people comfortable, but it was just such a different experience with my son Bodhi, who's in a wheelchair that everybody knows. I mean, it's just very obvious. Mm-hmm. And they're both, having had both of those experiences, like, there's a vulnerability in both of them, and there's a beauty in both of them. But it made me realize exactly what you said, that we're all carrying something, and it's really easy for us to put up the good face, but we also need those places in community where we can be where we're at and who we are. And I think that's so beautiful about what you're doing with Hope Heals. It's like you're setting a big table and letting people be who they are and where they're at.
Oh, yes. I very much think that's the key, is that if you have any advantage in life, if you are more fortunate than anybody else, then you should spend your life building a bigger table and inviting people to come sit with you. I think that is really missing in our world, is let's make a bigger table. Let people sit, neat.
Let people be. Yeah. So your recent podcast you've been doing on the topic of beauty, which I loved them. And they're just so profound. And I love they use the word subversive, which, that is such I just love that word. And I was wondering if you would share a little bit about your journey to sort of rethinking beauty or meeting beauty in a new way, because our culture has beauty to be a certain thing, but I think it's really so much deeper than that.
Oh,
will you share that with us?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think prior to really needing to think through it very clear-headedly and, very much wanting to redefine everything in my life post-stroke, I recognized that even the word beauty automatically in my mind means appearance, that is what we're talking about always, is appearance. And that's such a mistake, because true beauty is not just appearance. My word, beauty is intangible and invisible. And I believe true beauty is actually, fascinatingly, about walking away from the shame we all feel. I think starting when we are young children, we are told stories that are memorable messages to us about our beauty, our appearance, and that messes us up and fills us with shame. And we have to unlearn all of that to get down to what is truly beautiful.
I think that that's such a profound thing that I've been thinking a lot about lately. Yeah. Like I see my son Bodhi, who has a very broken body, if you will, as such a beautiful boy and such a gift. And
how old is he?
Bodhi's 10.
Oh, he's 10. Oh,
yeah. He recently turned 10, and he's really struggling right now with a lot of seizures and he's actually going in the hospital this weekend for an overnight EEG, and just a really hard season with him. But I also sense such a nearness of God's love in this season too. And I'm wondering if you would talk maybe a little bit about that experience for you, because so many people, I think, we have a hardship, something happens that we don't expect, and then our default is like, well, God isn't here, or, he doesn't care, or why is this happening to me? And I have really learned to reframe that in my life and seeing it actually as a space of nearness and holiness. You have a recent episode with Dr. Amy entitled "My Body is Not a Prayer Request." And that really touched me because so many people have said to me about my son, Bodie. So Bodie was born 2 years after my son, Ethan, died. And I think people were so sad for our family, for everything that we had gone through with Ethan. He was in the hospital the last year of his life. It was a very dramatic story in many ways.
Oh,
and
so sorry. Yeah.
People, I think, couldn't take the fact that our family was going to go through something else.
Right.
And so I'm wondering if you would share, how do you feel and how do you respond to people when they say, "I'm praying for your healing"?
Right. It's so interesting. And I do love that Dr. Amy is so bold. I'm naturally much more prone. I mean, I'm a Southern Belle. I'm socialized to just accept it and be sweet and not give it back. But I've gotten a little spicier for sure. And I get very annoyed because I feel like those people are really just filling silence and they don't want it to be awkward and aren't actually speaking anything true. And many times they're saying hurtful things. They're making it all about the physical. And I like to really flip it and say, there's so much to pray for here. My marriage, my tongue, my, whatever, my children. Like, don't merely pray for physical healing. And I think, I just think healing is so much more than merely the body. Mm-hmm. Dr. Kinney, I think she coined the phrase, and I love it, that with so many, well-meaning people, but just say bizarre things that demean you, she says, "My dignity is not up for debate." And I love that we're not going to have a conversation because it's not up for debate here. I'm worthy of being in the stream because I'm here, so don't immediately make it about my body. And so many times, well-meaning people do, but they say terrible things.
Well, it's almost like we're going back to what we just said about beauty, that we're giving that the standard of beauty is the physical and not how we've grown through an experience.
Yeah.
I'm wondering what you think about the miracles of Jesus in the Gospels and how you see those as a person living with a physical disability.
Yeah, oh goodness. It's so fascinating. So, well, one thing I would say is that I think you see in Scripture pretty clearly that for the ones who do get a quote-unquote healing, which I think is actually a curing, that many times their life does not get better just because they got the physical cure. That actually the healing happens when they meet Jesus, believe Jesus, worship Jesus, that it's not, the blind man, for instance, does see again. And yet that doesn't mean his life improves. It's actually he loses his only line of work. He is ostracized by friends and family. People don't believe him. It's a very hard deal. And then he meets Jesus and he becomes truly healed.
A quick shout out to the Ethan Lindberg Foundation. That's the nonprofit I started to support caregiving families. And also to Play Heartstrong, our youth sports program teaching kids how to grow through challenge. Both are part of the bigger Heartstrong mission. You can learn more and shop our merch at theheartstrong.com. I read a book by a pediatric neurologist that suggested that really what Jesus was trying to show and he talked about the Gospel of Mark, that it wasn't just physical acts, but he was really talking about restoring people to community. And that when he was healing them, he was restoring them into community. And that's really kind of what healing is. It's about the restoration into community and not just the physical.
That's so interesting. And I totally think that's so accurate, that so many times people living with disabilities are so isolated. And to bring back the community is a profound thought of that. That's what healing is.
Yeah, it really is. So I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and my mom would listen to Christian radio every morning. And Joni Eareckson Tada would be on with a little blurb every morning. And I was a young girl, but I remember thinking to myself, this woman is so joyful.
I know.
And she had such a hard experience.
Right. Yes, I'm dear friends with Johnny. She really mentored me for years when we lived in California. She wrote the foreword on our first book, Hope Heals, and we're very, very tracking. And she's truly, truly an inspiration to me, my word. For your listeners who don't know, she suffered a diving accident at 17 years old and has lived her entire life as a quadriplegic. And she's now in her late 60s. And she is so full of joy and just grit. She's gritty and, she's just so amazing.
She really is. One of the things I noticed about her was her joy, and I noticed that same joy in you.
Oh,
and I'm wondering if you would just talk a little bit about, you call it, I hear you say joyful rebellion.
Oh, you're exactly right. I love how you know so much of this. You're tracking. I like it. You're exactly right. First of all, I should say, Johnny does things like call and leave messages on people's machines singing. I don't do stuff like that. So I don't know if I'm as joyful as she is. However, I do love the notion of rebelling with joy, for sure, that we all get to be joy rebels, no matter the circumstances. And we all get to be a part of disrupting the lie that joy can only come in a pain-free life, because our lives all have pain, and we can still experience joy even in the pain.
We really can. So I have this favorite verse. It's in Proverbs. It's 13:12. Hope deferred makes a heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. And I'm wondering if you would share about how we might redefine a longing fulfilled. When the longing fulfilled, we think of it as a healed body or a healed child or something working out the way that we wanted. How can we rethink the idea of a longing fulfilled, even when things don't go the way that we hoped?
Good question. Thought-provoking for sure. To me, a longing fulfilled would be the healing of the soul. So nothing connected to the body. For me, after my stroke, as I began to relearn to eat, to speak, to walk, as I was a new wheelchair user and couldn't even hold my head up yet or stand up, much less I'm adjusting to life with a paralyzed face and an eye that no longer tracks and deafness in one ear and all the things. I remember just feeling like God has really hurt my feelings. Like, I'm so hurt. Did God make a mistake by leaving me here? Should I be in heaven? I'm caught between life and death. Like, I don't want to live this way. And that feeling, those thoughts and those just understandings early on could not have flipped more significantly today. To where I 100% see this is the life God chose for me, and it is a gift. And I think in that I'm seeing the longing fulfilled. It wasn't to get a body that works again, that's so small, but to have a perspective that recognizes this is my assignment on earth and to love my assignment. I think that probably is the deepest longing fulfilled, is to know this is the life I am supposed to live, and I love it here.
I love that about loving our assignments.
Yeah.
That's really beautiful. Because it's hard sometimes to love our assignments. And you talked in a recent podcast about, sometimes we have a death of a dream, but you talked about dreaming a new dream. That sometimes
Yeah.
when things don't work out, we get to dream new dreams. Will you share a little bit about that idea for people?
Oh, absolutely. Once again, love that you're tracking. So great. Yes, I talk a ton about that. That who says we have to be wedded to the dreams from when we were a little girl? It's so sad. It's 1 Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. But then one day I put away childish ways. Like that's what we have to do. And in so doing, we are freed to dream new dreams for our lives. I call it learning to be emotionally agile, learning to pivot, recognizing that we have capacity to change and to say, you know what? That was the dream. But then my life has taken me to a different place. So I'm going to get some new dreams. And I think that is such a place that people get so stuck. They wait their whole lives for the miracle so that their dream can come true, instead of recognizing they're living the miracle, that their very life is the miracle they've been waiting for. And they wait their whole life for it to be like they thought it would be when they were little. And then it never is. And they spend their whole life in being disillusioned, waiting in tragedy for something that was right in front of their nose their whole life.
It's like that. I sense that you have like a deep knowing that this is exactly the way it's supposed to be in some way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's always so complicated to unpack that, and I think we won't know fully till heaven. I mean, people got a lot of answers, but I got all the questions. But I think that's the posture we should take is it's mysterious. We don't have the answer. However, I do know that, God is in this. Now, whether he caused this, he allowed it, he permitted it. I mean, there's some semantics going on too, but the sovereignty of God is also not up for debate. And it's here. So I'm going to take it and use it and recognize that it is so incredibly fulfilling to love your calling. That when you love what you're doing with your life, you're going to want to do a whole lot of it, and it's going to feed itself.
Feed itself. I love that. And that I think it can only feed itself when we just step into it and accept it like you're doing and go with it. And I love what you talked about. I mean, I think what I've learned is like, I don't need all the answers I used to need anymore.
Right.
Like I'm okay with the mystery.
Right.
Do you feel that way?
100% yes, that I'm okay. Now, I'm okay with the gray. It's messy and complicated. You know, everything fit more neatly into a tidy box with my faith before I came to know a lot of people in the disability community. That kind of rocked my world, even more than the stroke did, actually.
Wow.
Coming to know many families where someone has a disability, especially nonverbal, non-mobile children, that just kind of wrecked my understanding of so many things. I mean, I think it's hard to say, all the things, actually. It's just hard and complicated, for sure.
It's hard and
But that's
complicated.
okay. Like, who's to say that's not once again, the posture we should take? Humility, we don't have the answers, and one day I'll know.
One day I'll know. So I have been a caregiving mom for almost 20 years between two different kids. And
You're amazing, Jess. That's
well,
so
and I
cool.
had so many different plans for my life. And, you know, caregiving is beautiful and it's hard. And for many moms, especially, it's very lonely, and we don't really talk about the faithfulness of hard things day after day, year after year. And so I'm wondering if you would just offer a message of encouragement to those parents out there who are faithfully caregiving, navigating our broken healthcare system, and
Oh, gosh.
just really need just a little message of encouragement today.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I know there is such weariness for so many caregivers. If it's exhausting and never ending, and I have so much compassion for what caregivers are living through. So you're doing a great job, Jess. Keep it up.
Thank
I
you.
know it is not easy. As my husband knows, caregiving is many times thankless, and it's very, very hard. But I would tell each one of the caregiver listeners to your podcast that they can do this, that God has given them capacity to handle hard things, endure the hard in their stories, the things that aren't neatly tied up with a bow and going away, and the things that are unending. It feels like the laundry never gets fully done when you're a caregiver. It feels like that child you're taking care of is going to need taking care of tomorrow morning as well as till bedtime tonight. And just so unending and exhausting is all I can think. And yet a posture of, yeah, this is hardcore. This is no joke. And yet I was made to do hard things, is I think how you do engage it. That you do utilize and cultivate, if you need to, some grit and say, you know what, I'm going to put on my big girl panties. If that's okay to say.
Sure.
And do the thing, do the thing right in front of you. I think so many times we are paralyzed by the what if loop of our lives. What if this were different? What if this had happened this way? What if I would have made this decision? And we're just wrought with the what ifs of all of our life. And I think the escape hatch off of the what if loop is hope. Because hope gives us permission to live our actual lives. I think the question shouldn't be what if, but rather what is? What is in our story? And can we find gratitude in what is? And for caretakers of all kinds, I imagine it can be very difficult to find gratitude, but it changes you. It changes your brain to find small things to be grateful for in the story, the small wins in each of our lives add up and do things neurobiologically that make a significant impact.
And I think there's a lot of grace that we receive. I think there's a lot of grace. I've heard you mention that one of your goals for Hope Heals is to restore dignity and to redeem excellence for the disability community. And I love that, because so many families with disabilities, member with a disability, they kind of get the scraps in life, in healthcare, in spaces. And you're really redeeming that.
Thank you. Jess, you're going to have to come down and come to our coffee shop, because it is the epitome of what that desire looks like right in front of me, that it's beautiful and it's done with excellence, because that is a value we have. Because we see and have known firsthand so many of the spaces that I had to be in after the stroke, all the hospitals, the rehabs, are very sterile, are really utilitarian, but that's about it. There's not a lot of high-level design, beauty, or excellence. And ultimately, we believe that beauty dignifies, that what beauty does is says, you matter here, and we made a space for you, and it's lovely. Come and enjoy.
That is probably one of my favorite things about Hope Heals, because I have felt as a parent, you always feel like you're fighting for that dignity for your child, that beauty for spaces. And for many people, it's hard to access spaces. It's hard to be part of things, because I kind of say sometimes it feels like you're looking through the glass window and everyone inside is having a party, but you're not quite able to be there. And I think a lot of families feel that way. And I'm wondering if you would share what your message would be to pastors or leaders or people who have the ability to open the spaces and set a wider table for the disability community.
Yeah, it's a real tragedy that by and large churches in America are so inaccessible on every level to people with disabilities, not just the wheelchair that has a hard time getting in, because sometimes ADA does a smidge. But let's be real. The reality is that most churches, from a social standpoint, can't handle the child in the service that's on the spectrum, or the fact that the person experiencing schizophrenia is talking through the whole service, or whatever the thing is until we can be more comfortable with people not acting just like we do in our church services, then I think there's so much shame that the family feels that they just stay home and stop coming. And that's not even to say, truly, buildings should be designed with sensory rooms for people with sensory needs. People should really have a different level of care. Our coffee shop is designed with a super high level of what we call universal design, which means that there's adult changing tables in the bathroom. There's the ability to swivel a table up or down for a wheelchair user and their guests. There's cutouts as you approach the counter so a wheelchair can slide underneath and pay with dignity. And those should be the standard for churches being built today, is all those things and much more. And hopefully one day it will be that way.
I hope so too. I have the pleasure of having Jen and Jeremy DeWert. I think you've met them, or I spoke at their church once, as friends and pastors. Yes. And they have an amazing champions club at church here. So when Bodie can go, there is a space for him to be, and that is such a blessing.
That is so cool, and that is very rare. Yes, I loved speaking at that church. So that's your church?
Yep, and they're good friends.
Gosh.
Actually, Bodie, so they have a son, Pax, who has Down syndrome, right. And Bodie and him ride the school bus together. So we live in the same neighborhood.
I really think you all need to apply to come to our camp.
I was actually thinking about that when I was looking at your website. I'm like, that would be such an amazing experience.
Okay, next year, both of your families need to apply to come to camp and have some respite for your soul. Your child will have a blast, and it's a special, sacred space. So come on down.
It's amazing what you have built, and I think just working in advocacy and different, disease spaces.
Yes.
I see a lot of separation between different diseases and there's just such a silo effect. And you've been able to bring that all together. How have you done that?
We don't really know how and why that was on our hearts, but it always has been such a key for us is utilizing the power of everybody, any disability, any age, from anywhere in the U.S. and beyond. There's no barriers to entry. And what that's done in our camp community specifically has created a beautiful lack of comparison. Everybody's got their stuff. Everybody. This 80-year-old man's using a wheelchair and had a stroke, and this 3-year-old using a wheelchair and has spina bifida, and we're all in this together, and it's all different, but it's all the same. So I think it's kind of magical, but we can take the credit. I think the Lord laid that on both of our hearts, that we need spaces where it's everybody all the time.
So my oldest son, Ethan, spent the last year of his life in an intensive care unit. He was very sick. And in looking back, my husband and I often say that, we just got to know all the families there, and you just develop this community of people in this really challenging space. But we always often say it's one of the holiest places we've ever been.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what's missing often in places of faith, and this realization that when we shun the disabled or the sick or the different, we're missing out on the opportunity to experience the beauty of God and what it feels
Absolutely.
to be in the presence of holy.
It is crazy. Without fail, when people come back from Hope Hills Camp, inevitably they tell us and anybody who will listen, it's the thinnest place I've ever been. It's the closest to heaven I've ever been. There's nothing like it. I've never experienced the kingdom of God more than at a camp for people with disabilities in the summer in Alabama, where everybody's sweaty and it's a camp. And yet people are like, this is heaven. This is glorious. And we agree, it is. And it's because, in my opinion, ego is not a factor. There's no posturing, that no one's pretending lives are perfect. It's very obvious. Nobody here's life is perfect. So we're just going to celebrate being together and celebrate the fact that we got to show up today. We don't know what tomorrow holds, but we're here today. I think to date we have had over 25 campers pass.
Wow.
And as you know, having a son that just passed, that is just unimaginable pain for a parent. I mean, Jess, I feel so much for you. I can't imagine how it would feel to get up out of bed every day. And yet that weariness and that grief translates to this just special love of the disability community, which is so cool that you actually have a child now with disabilities, because what we see is for people who have lost children who come to volunteer at our camp, there is such healing to be had in their story of losing a child, but then pouring into people with disabilities. So actually, you are living that 24 hours a day, which is so cool, Jess, that you are hopefully, I pray, able to receive the benefits of life with disability. Just does something to your soul. And I think in deep grief, there can be this unlocking of the soul that happens through disability.
I totally agree with you. I always say I wouldn't choose the circumstances of my life, but I would never trade them.
Right. Of course. That's it. You would not. I would not choose to have had a stroke, and yet, now I would not trade them.
Wouldn't trade it for anything. So you talk about, I want to kind of, as we wrap up here, I've heard you talk about or write about second chance lives, that we're all living a second chance life.
Absolutely.
And I love that idea, because I think it goes back into like dreaming a new dream and thinking about what is in front of us versus what we want it to be.
Right. Yeah.
Do you have a sense that really what you're doing now was the calling all along, that it's maybe not the second chance, that it's like what you were put on earth to do from the very beginning?
It's so interesting. Yes, 100%. And yet it is my second chance life. I nearly died. So I think it's both. I think 100%. No, this is the plan A. This is not the plan B. And yet it is a second chance life I'm getting to lead in this body, because it was supposed to not be here. And actually, we were remembering recently that I was not even a candidate for surgery for every surgeon at the hospital I was taken to except one. Not a soul would operate on me because my brain had herniated into my spinal column and they didn't want to touch me. Every doctor but one was going to let me die in the waiting room. It's just so shocking now to even remember being told that, the doctors and other nurses who were in there for my 16-hour brain surgery just kept saying, she just kept not dying. She just kept not dying. my full blood volume would be replaced 5 times during the surgery. There was many moments where they thought, this is the moment that she'll go. And I just kept not dying, which is so cool. So I definitely have a sense that, like, no, I am supposed to be here.
You are supposed to be here.
Oh, yeah.
I after my son Ethan passed, my husband and I met with a chaplain at the hospital that faithfully came to see us like every day. And I asked him a question. I said, you know, he'd probably been a chaplain at this children's hospital for like 20 years, so a long time.
Yeah.
And I said, on 2 hands, I'm like, how many miracles, true miracles have you seen? Because everyone's praying for one. And he's like, maybe 2 hands. And he's like, you know, everyone has this sense that the miracle is the healing, but God can work so many miracles in so many spaces. And I can say that now in hindsight of everything that I've been through, even missing my son Ethan, I see so much purpose that has been weaved through our lives, even in the fact that he's not here. Mm-hmm. And I think that each life, I mean, I believe that we live the days that we're supposed to be here and then we go home.
Right.
And
I do too. I believe that.
Yeah. So it's like stewarding those days and living with an open hand, I always say. Easier said than done. I white knuckle it a lot, I admit. But that posture is something that I see in you and something that I really try to do in my life as well.
Jess, thank you for saying that. I sense that in you as well, actually, that living an open-handed life, like, Lord, I release what I cannot hold on to. I have no choice. But I also receive exactly what you have. That's what I want to do. So, yes, 100%.
I like to leave people listening with some practical ideas for their actual lives.
Yes.
You know, we've had a nonprofit organization for 10 years where we've really tried to help families practically, financial assistance, just very specific, tangible things, because I think that we have to show up for people in that way too. And so many times these families don't have those practical needs met. I mean, there's all kinds of data on the financial impact and everything else that goes when you have all of these challenges.
Honestly, that's why our camp is free. We fundraise all year.
Yeah.
Because the cost of camp tuition for a family is not available for most of the population living with disability, because their money's been taken trying to get their loved one well, you know?
That's right. And I'm wondering if you would share maybe like a practice or something or a tool in your day that just helps you kind of continue to shore up your inner strength, whether it's prayer or something specific that somebody might say, well, how does Katherine do this on an everyday basis? What is one very tangible thing you do?
Oh, sure. I'm really into gratitude. So that's a big one for me. Actually, even before we had Hope Heals, way back when I was writing a blog called katherinewolf.info, you know, with like 8 people reading it. Just kidding. And I would, at the end of each prayer need blog post, like, all these horrific things are happening, like, you know, pray for Katherine to eat. She failed her 10th swallowing test, or, you know, really sad stuff. I'd have a point of gratitude at the end, like something to be grateful for. And maybe that week it was like, I got to eat an ice chip in swallow therapy, and that's so wonderful to taste ice again after 10 months with nothing, and be just like so incredibly sad, but also so powerful, because that level of gratitude impacted me very deeply. And today, years later, so I have 2 sons, and before they go to school every morning, we all have to share what we're grateful for. And there's no rules. It can be past gratitude. It can be future, what we're looking forward to. We're already grateful for it. Or it can be right now in this moment, or last night, whatever. But I record it. I write it down on my phone. I have a notes app, and I just jot down John - this, James - this. And now we have years of you could scroll for a really, really, really long time to see everything that we're grateful for. And it's definitely done something to my head and my heart. And I pray it does to my kids as well, that there is always something to find gratitude in. And I think it does change how you live your life. I read a writing of Ann Voskamp's years ago, where she talked about the fish. The disciples fished, and I wish I could remember this quote. It was so beautiful. That basically, in the Bible, it says the number of fish they caught. And she had never noticed that it's 156 fish that came into the boat that day. And how significant that is recorded. It's because they were counting. They were awake enough to their lives to count the exact number of fish that they brought into the boat. And her takeaway, which is what I have taken away, is count your fish. Like, count every single one and know. And live awake to that. Live wide awake to what God is doing in the story he's writing.
Well, I think that's a beautiful way to end this conversation. Katherine, thank you for sharing time with me today. And God bless you and your team and all the amazing things you're doing for families and all of your notes. I love reading your hope notes as well. So thank you for being part of the Becoming Heartstrong podcast and for...
It has been such a blessing to be on. Just thank you so much for having me. I'm hoping to meet you one day at our camp. We'd love to have you come.
I would love to do that. I would absolutely love it. Thanks for being here, and thanks for listening to Becoming Heartstrong. If this episode spoke to you, take just a moment and share it with someone that you care about. And make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss what's next. Before I go, I want to remind you that your challenges aren't the end of your story. They're the doorway to the best version of you. So keep going and keep becoming heartstrong. I'll see you next time.